This is the fourth video I'm posting on my YouTube channel in the Learning to Cut series. In this video, I will cover the diagonal line. Step by step, I'll walk you through how to best cut the diagonal line. Here you have the example. At the front, it is longer. It runs diagonally backwards. With that, I create a radiation. And that way, you've got an animal line. Well, the other series of cuts is also on my YouTube channel. I actually used the doll head from film 1. Haven't you seen it yet? Check that before you start cutting the diagonal line. I wish you all the best and much fun cutting. Here are some examples of a diagonal bob line. Before you start cutting the diagonal bob line, it's important to really understand the cutting lines, that you actually know what you're doing. I have drawn it all out for you here. First, we go to the first line, the horizontal line, which is already on my YouTube channel. That is thus the one length line, the massive line. What's happening here? All hairs fall down. You cut one line and it is indeed solid, because all those hairs come to that first line. Find your way. In the second video, with increasing length layers, you place a line above it. Then the hair you cut upwards is shorter on top than on the sides and in the back. So that's how you got that layering. Then we have the vertical line, and it removes a lot of the sun. A lot of weight. You can also see it here if you project that hair backwards. Then you're removing a lot of hair, creating a lot of layers. And in my third video, which is also on YouTube, it is immediately lower, that line that goes all around, nodding along. In this fourth video, the diagonal line, which is this one. Number 4 is also included. The diagonal line is the toughest line for beginner hairdressers to cut. And that's why I want to really highlight it now, so that you understand what you're doing. So I'm grabbing the next graphs there, because then it might become a bit clear. I let this hang below for a while. Look, because I just told you the horizontal line that we have here, it is so it's a solid line, all hairs come up. So you have that length line, the vertical line. So I'm removing a lot of weight. If you pull it out 90 degrees from the head and cut it off, you're removing a lot of weight, a lot of layering. Then you see the line in the middle. I'm going to walk with a 45-degree line in the next video. Now, it could be that when you're cutting that bob, that diagonal bob, you might think, oh, there's a bit of a sag, it's somewhat heavy. Without checking you guys, I already know that you are here then. Worked under 45 degrees, that your finger stance was under 45 degrees, and then you're building weights. And why? Then you head towards that horizontal line, that length line, that solid line. Well, imagine you're cutting right now and you think, oh, the section of the diagonal is very high, very short, that it turned out shorter than you had in mind. Then it's such that your fingers were above 45 degrees. And then it becomes clear, then your fingers are moving more towards the vertical line. And as I just said, the vertical line removes a lot of weight. In the next video, I'm going to cut J's at the 45-degree angle. Then I'll grab the next ones. Look, I have already drawn it for you here. What I've done is kept that solid line as a sketch line, and from there I'm going to work at a 45-degree angle. But your body position in hairdressing is very important. Then it's quite difficult to maintain that 45-degree line. Well, what I do then, and you see it in my video too, you can do it to your clients. so you can have your client look down. Be careful with the position of your fingers. If your client looks a bit down, your fingers should go up to keep that 45-degree angle. Imagine your customer looks down and your fingers stay at that 45 degrees and the customer straightens up again. Then you move back to your solid line and it becomes too heavy again. So when you want to cut at a 45-degree angle, you go up with your fingers. Keep an eye on the position of the head, and if you do this, remember well, then I am sure that cutting will become easier and easier. This is the graphic drawing that goes with the diagonal pop line. The back lengths are short, it gets longer towards the front. Before we start cutting, we are going to divide. First, secure the top section, the horseshoe, then a straight line on the back of the head, and I divide the middle area into two. Secure this so you have a nice base to cut from. I start in the middle of the back of the head and my guideline is the bottom line that has already been cut in the film. So I don't cut in there, that's where I make my 45-degree angle. The head is slightly bent, so keep a good eye on the position of your fingers to maintain that 45-degree angle. Each time I take a small section and project it to the middle because I work with a fixed guideline. Each section moving outward covers a longer distance, and as you can also see with me, less and less gets cut off with each snip. I work from the middle to the left side outward and then I continue to the other side. My guideline stays in the middle, that's where I start again. And if you look closely at the direction of my combs, I comb it towards the guidelines. I'm sure I'm going to the right point. When the bottom surface is ready, you can move on to the next one. The position of the head remains the same. Release both parties and comb it down. The body position in this cutting technique is constantly in one place. What you can do for yourself is, for example, make a cross on the ground with tape where you put your feet and then stick the entire cut. You stay right there, because if you move your body a bit to the side, you will lose balance, because your hands will automatically follow. As you can see, each time take a thin pass after projecting the center, and the position of your fingers remains at that 45 degrees and you constantly cut the hair off. You will notice even now as you advance, the less hair that comes off, because that hair is always traveling a longer distance. When you start cutting, don't cut right into your hand. Sometimes you have to switch hands because you don't want to cut into your hand. When you have done one side, you go back to the other side. Make sure your body is constantly in front of the section you are cutting. That way, you maintain balance in your dome. So if you can't see your guideline, as you can see with me, it's clearly visible. It means your pass is too thick, you'll have to take smaller passes. The sections I include are vertical. When you then think I don't have a hammer to cut, then you don't need to take that front passe either. Then we go to the last level, the top level. You comb that loose, and with your client you then look for a bit of the natural fall and let it fall in the parting. From there, you adjust the top to the bottom again. If you're going to cut this dome on a model, then you will also have to alert her that she should keep the position of the head throughout the entire haircut in this manner. Because if they change the position of the head unnoticed, it also changes the angle of your cutting. And that affects your cutting line. Also, check the customer's head position during cutting. Again, you take straight vertical partitions. You project that backwards towards your fixed guideline and connect it there. You do this on both sides. The pitfall of this cutting line could be that the position of the fingers is not correct and that you go too high or too low. Look, If you want it consciously, then it's good, because it's very important that you become aware of what you're cutting into the customer's hair. You will notice when you cut the top passé that a somewhat heavier line begins to hang halfway up the back of the head. And I can explain that. It's because the top hair, it goes more towards. So you create a bit more on the back of the head with your horizontal line. A horizontal or a solid line. To remove it now, because you will see that in the video in a moment. First, I dry the hair. You can see very well in the dry hair where it is necessary to further texturize the hair. When you're going to blow dry this hair, you can choose to do it with volume or without. I choose not to do it, not the voluminous curls, that it falls more in the natural fall. Start at the front with blow drying right partitions, and always keep the mouth of your. Let the wind blow down. You want to dry the hair with a scale layer down so that the light beautifully casts on the hair again. Once you have completely dried the hair, you will see exactly where you need to cut in a little more. When you start cutting, it's best to learn with your shears. When you start to honor your co-webs, and I'll show you that soon, do it with an angle in the hair so that you create a broken line. Look, now I'm turning it around for you, and then you can see that I still have a bit of a heavier line on top, but the diagonal line is already very visible. Look, do you see the line there? That's what you want to get rid of. Well, you can see that much better in dry hair than in wet hair. You can then pick up exactly the lock where it is needed. And then I go in at an angle with my thinning shears to create a broken line. So you lose that heavy line, you keep the length because you want to preserve that. Because you want everything to blend together really smoothly. Of course, you can cut the diagonal and Bobline at different lengths. Look, the easiest is that you first create the outer line in the neck area, and from there determine your 45-degree angle. There are still many variations on this diagonal line. But this line, to start with cutting, is the easiest to control, and from there you can be more creative. So I would say, good luck, and above all, have lots of fun cutting.